If you don't know already, emergency exits are on both sides. Washrooms are that way, on my left, on your right. My right, your left. Please download the app. Please give us feedback. We really look at the survey results. It helps us build better agendas, better sessions for you. We really want to hear what you have to say. Hoping you're enjoying the session. Today, the next session is about establishing a culture of innovation at AWS with cloud innovation centers. And I'm going to bring Ben Butler to the stage.
Thank you, Shirley. And also thank you, everyone, for attending our session about cloud innovation centers. And I'll talk a little bit about the program, why we came up with the program, and have a couple of our customers talk about the cloud innovation centers for their particular institutions. So if I say CIC, that's Cloud Innovation Center, or CIC, and so I'll say that throughout the presentation as well as some of our customers. So I just wanted to set the stage there. And we wanted to talk about how we could accelerate innovation in public sector using this emerging and new program regarding cloud innovation centers. And if you saw Teresa's keynote yesterday, she talked about the 7 cloud innovation centers that we recently have launched, to 5 in the last year, but 7 worldwide. And I'll talk a little about across all of them. And then we'll have 2 of our executive sponsors from Cal Poly's Cloud Innovation Center and ASU Smart City CIC as well. So I'll start off with a quote, one of my favorite quotes from Jeff Bezos, and it sets the context of the Cloud Innovation Center program. But invention comes in many forms and at many scales, and the most radical and transformative are the ones that empower others to unleash their creativity and to pursue their dreams. And Amazon's had a history of doing that in terms of the Amazon.com platform, and now allowing for third-party sellers, as well as AWS for enabling enterprises, startups, public sector organizations to innovate on the cloud computing platform in the form of Kindle with e-self-publishing, and it would go on and on. And so also we've been recognized in various media and analysts and Wall Street as being a very innovative company. And our customers, which are most important when we get the feedback, one of the first questions that we get from various executives of our customers is, how does Amazon innovate? How do you go from being a bookseller to being a multinational company, developing all these various products and going in all these different industries? And last year I gave a culture of innovation presentation talking about some of those aspects of how we do it in terms of our mechanisms and our organization of how we break things down in 2 pizza teams. Andy this morning was talking about that in the fireside chat, having smaller teams that have ownership and being able to drive innovation within their separate teams. So I talked about some of those. And what we did with the Innovation Center, one of the things we realized, we had a lot of various programs around startups and accelerators, working with education, universities, as well as talking about and giving our culture of innovation talk. But we realized there was a gap, and that gap was a deeper co-collaboration, co-innovation of establishing a culture in a more sustained fashion to solve problems for public sector. And so we developed, in collaboration with our CIC customers, what we call our sponsors. So for instance, at Arizona State University or Cal Poly University, where we have 2 CICs, the customer there we call our CIC sponsor. So we worked with our sponsors in defining what could we do to establish a culture of innovation that will work on various solutions and problem sets within public sector. And so we have a cloud or CIC mission, Cloud Innovation Center mission, and we want to work with community leading public sector institutions and collaborate with them to do various things, such as minimizing technology cost. Again, Andy said that's usually the #1 driver of interest for cloud adoption, is the opportunity to save cost, but that's not the sustaining. It's the speed and the agility for innovation, right? So we want to expand technology alternatives, increase the option set, and also provide a learn by doing approach. So another theme was training. How do we empower and upskill the workforce and provide economic development opportunities? And that is one of the mission sets of the CIC, but doing it in a learn by doing approach versus learn by observing or learn by reading or learn by watching someone else. But no, getting into a real problem, learning cloud computing technologies, learning innovation methodologies, but in the context of solving a real problem. And then the last bullet, accelerate repeatable public cloud successes. So what we really mean by that is open sourcing the innovation, being able to take an idea and publicize the work that we've been doing, and we'll have some examples of that later on, of some of the challenges that we work on at an innovation center, and all for improving digital experiences and solutions for citizens. So overall, that's our mission, and how we collaborate is the KIC sponsor, again, is the customer that hosts the facility in the innovation center. So while the KIC is an AWS program, the actual KIC, which we would call an initiative, so an instance of a KIC, we position that is our customer sponsor, our KIC sponsors innovation center. So they provide the facilities, the physical facilities access. They also provide a dedicated program manager to ensure the success and drive the success that KIC sponsor wants. So it's not about what Amazon's trying to solve or what Amazon's problems are trying to solve. We're really working with our KIC sponsor to define those problems and to bring in those innovation challenge ideas, because we want to hear from the customer as to what things to work on. And then public sharing and the open source of the challenge content as open source, provide best practices. We both share the work that we've done and the lessons learned of an innovation challenge, but also we share amongst other KICs how to operate a KIC and how to run one and source challenges and pick which challenges to work on, defining the pillars of that particular initiative. And then developing program metrics, such as how many innovation challenges are we working on, are they aligned to the pillars that we've established, and how many solutions are we producing that are impacting multiple public sector customers. And then from the Amazon side, what we provide and the value that we try to instill is we want to share our innovation methodologies and our philosophies. And I'll go into a little bit more detail later on about exactly what that means. And then we also provide AWS Cloud Credits. So as you come up with an idea, want to build a prototype, we remove the risk of cost of trying out that idea, not only with low cost of AWS, but we provide credits to subsidize it to near zero. And solutions architecture support. So we provide a solutions architect that will run solutions workshops that will take the ideas that we generate out of the problem definition and solutions ideas, and then work through how that would architect on AWS. And then we provide handoffs and feeders into our current training programs, so training and certification, AWS Educate, and also AWS Academy, amongst others. And then we'll have an annual conference to share best practices across the innovation centers. And so what exactly is an innovation challenge, and what do we do during a particular engagement within a cloud innovation center? So we want to focus on real-world customer problems and opportunities. That is in essence of how we do it when we solve or create a product at Amazon, is we want to know the voice of the customer. Has a customer said that they want it or need it, or if they expressed a desire to solve a pain point that we can try to innovate around? And then we work on a series of various workshops, and I'll go through the engagement model in a little bit more detail, but it's an intense collaboration, hands-on. Yesterday, I ran a 2-hour workshop to kind of give it at a high level, but these are usually multi-day and even multi-month challenges when you go from end to end. And then we want to provide real-world learning experiences for students. So students will actually listen in to what the customers have to say about the problem, because they provide the subject domain expertise of those issues, say around homelessness or traffic or public safety, as some examples, and we'll go through some of those innovation challenges in this next video. So this video is an AWS video in collaboration with Cal Poly. Paul will be speaking a little bit later, but I want to set the context from the voice of the customer of what the KIC means to them. So again, I was saying each of the KIC sponsors name their KIC what they, since they own it, they name it what they want. And for Cal Poly, they call it the DX Hub, which is short for Digital Transformation Hub.
The Digital Transformation nothing has changed this world more than the cloud. So the ability of the DX Hub to develop a cloud learning evolutionary process is what really prepares the students better as they go to work in the world at large.
It's putting students in a position to solve real-world problems. I am working collaboratively with the DX Hub for the California Energy Commission on marine-focused technology that will hopefully be able to identify and release species on the ocean floor using artificial intelligence.
I see computing as a service in a lot of different disciplines at Cal Poly, especially the area of agriculture, which has been historically technology starved. The application that we ended up solidifying on for this summer was tracking of cattle for ranchers in the local area. Having a framework with the Amazon experts, of course, all the technology that's available, really allows for rapid prototyping in a matter of weeks or even months rather than years. And have that situation be always online available from anywhere, it's a real benefit for the research.
We went into the harvest trial with an incredible national message that is burned hot. Our product challenge was to work with San Diego Police Department and working in partnership with the Aws Cloud Credits and the Space Police platform.
Projects that we work on here at Cal Poly, it translates well to a lot of other institutions around the globe.
It's really allowing them to give back as they're learning.
Being exposed to public sector issues and working to solve those issues with technology solutions, whether it be project management or team building or resource planning, was providing an opportunity to gain experience that I did not expect until much later in my career. That student now has in their toolkit for life an innovative process that is used by a billion-dollar company innovating through the roof. That game changer for both the student, the company they work for, and society at large.
So I like that video because it talks from a student's point of view, from the university's point of view, from a professor's point of view about the value of the kick there at the DX Hub. We talked in the video, there were some of the challenges that were described with the San Leandro Police Department, the Monterey Bay Research. Paul will talk a little bit about the California Strawberry Commission, which Teresa talked about at the keynote. And the Engineering Grand Challenge was the one about tracking the herds of cattle. And then there's one we're working on with Orange County using machine learning to analyze graffiti throughout the city and the county. So those are the types of challenges. So how do we go about working on those challenges? And that's where the Amazon innovation processes come in that I'll talk about. So innovation begins where we start with the customer and work backwards. So working backwards is usually a generic term. There's a vision statement and you want to work backwards from it. Within Amazon, the working backwards process is a very specific methodology of what we do. And when we come up with an idea where we think we can delight and obsess over our customers, we don't write code. We don't write a prototype or build a prototype first. What we do is we write a press release. We write a press release as if the situation or the solution already exists. What would we say about it? What would a customer say about it? And then we work backwards from that vision. So it's a mock press release. Sometimes some of those wordings make it to the real press release, but it has the look and feel of a real press release. And the idea, it's a one-page narrative of our vision of why we want to do a new idea. And so we work on developing a press release for each of those challenges that you just saw. And when you think about the innovations that Amazon has with Prime, Echo, 165 AWS services, they all have their internal press release before we actually build the product. And so we start with the customer and we work backwards and we ask ourselves these 5 questions every time. Who is the customer? Sometimes there's a lot of customers, a lot of stakeholders, but we want to try to narrow it down to a customer, a persona, or maybe someone very specific so that you can really delight that example, like extreme example. And then what is the customer problem or opportunity? What is it exactly that you're trying to solve? And what is the most important customer benefit, and is it clear? Usually when you come up with an idea, there may be 15 reasons why it's a good idea, but what's that most salient one? If you write a press release, maybe the first paragraph is fully read. What would you say there? So it's the oh wow factor of being able to want to try or use this new service. And then how do you know the customers want or need it? What is the qualitative, quantitative data? Usually the first time you ask this question, you're thinking about the plan or the type of data that you need, and then in the future you would actually provide that data. So the working backwards process is a living process and something we do iteratively. And then what does the customer experience look like? So walk us through what a customer would do with this new solution or service. And we do this for every innovation challenge. And so we write a press release. There's some other documents I'll go through, but this is the engagement model of what we do for an innovation challenge throughout a cloud innovation center. So the first step we have is identify. We want to figure out where's the customer interest, what are those problem areas, solicit innovation challenge requests, and then we engage with them. We introduce to our digital innovation model this particular engagement that I'm describing now, and we frame the design challenge. What is it that we're trying to solve? What is happening today? What is the problem when they try to do something? And try to make it succinct and actionable for us to work on. And that way we can figure out the right people that we want to have in our innovation workshops, which we have as our define stage. And the Amazon Innovation Workshop is essentially going through a series of activities. Some is design thinking, some is brainstorming, and group consensus. It's 1 to 2 days of deep, intensive collaboration. And the idea is to come up with the big idea to solve a particular problem set that you've defined and framed the design challenge. And then the output of that is drafting that first press release. Now, the second document in the working backwards process is the frequently asked questions document. So the press release is the vision of why you want to do something. The FAQs, we have 2 of them, a customer FAQ and a stakeholder FAQ, and that is the how are we going to do it and what would it take. So the customer FAQ talks about specifically, what would a customer say about your new solution? What would their, how much does it cost? How do I use it? What would I use it for? And a stakeholder FAQ would be, what are the tools you need? What are the resources you need? When do you plan on launching it? What would the customer most like about your solution? What would a customer least like about your solution on the first version? And then we go through the prototyping, where we iterate on the press release and the FAQ. We look at the state of art in terms of alternative analysis, and then we clearly define the value proposition, and we create proof of concepts or demos of what we think could solve that problem. And then we develop recommendations. And we have an executive review that we review these documents. So when we announce Kindle, for instance, or an AWS service, we read the press release, we read the FAQs, and we read various visualizations that we do as well. That's the third, is the visualizations and storyboarding. And then realize value in terms of how are we going to, and this is where we hand off to either partners or to the customer themselves on how to take that idea to the next level in establishing an operating model if we think that experiment is successful. And then we do this multiple times or iterate across for the various challenges. So in summary, these are the 3 main documents: a press release, the frequently asked questions, and the visuals and prototype. And so this is just a quick snapshot of a visual that we rendered within the San Leandro Police Department. So it's too hard to read, but it talks through the story of an issue with crime. They're seeing an intake. They're running various analysis. So part of this challenge is, how do we have a digital evidence-based policing solution where we can fuse all various types of data, such as weather, traffic, social media, crime reports, the police intuition, and merge all of those together so they can determine what actions they could probably take, and then how could we share it across other police departments around the world. So this helps clarify the vision of what they want to do, to rethink what that solution could mean for that police department. And so when we work on these types of challenges, what's key here is we want to open source this stuff. So we have a website that will have the work that we've done here. And what we hope is there's other police departments that have similar challenges that would want to accelerate their adoption with doing it. And so this is the working backwards process. This is the methodology we do at a Cloud Innovation Center. It's what we've done within Amazon. I'm going to share a quick video. Someone's asked Jeff Bezos in this video, well, wow, do we have to do this process? It seems like a lot of, there's got to write a press release when you come up with an idea, you're writing the FAQs, you're doing this visualization, you're doing these deep dives before you get to write the code. Do we have to? So this is what Jeff, how he had to answer, how he decided to answer this.
Is the working backwards process optional? It sounds great, but it seems like a lot of work. Oh boy, how do we begin? Well, the working backwards process should not be optional unless you know a better way. And you shouldn't know a better way until you try the working backwards process several times. The working backwards process really does work. And this particular thing here, it sounds great, but it seems like a lot of work. Done correctly, the working backwards process is a huge amount of work, but it saves you even more work later. The working backwards process is not designed to be easy. It's designed to save huge amounts of work on the back end and to make sure that we're actually building the right thing. What so many companies do is they build this, they write the software, that's a lot of work. They get it all working, and then they throw it on the wall of the marketing department and say, okay, here's what we built, write a press release for it. That process is the one that's actually backwards.
So we do it, and it's been very successful for us. And one thing I haven't said, this happens to be our way of innovating, and there's millions of other successful ways to innovate, but this way is ours, and it's what adds the unique flavor to what we do for an AWS Kick. A popular question we get is, what about intellectual property? We're not here working on the Cloud Innovation Centers to develop intellectual property for Amazon. We're enablers, facilitators. We help our students and our Kick sponsors to work on these challenges and solve them, but we're not doing the work and we're not creating the IP for ourselves. So the idea is we truly want to make this open source and make it available. So as we pick new Kicks around the world, we look for sponsors that have that same type of vision. Speaking of sponsors around the world, I just want to quickly go over the ones that we just have done in the last 2 months have been pretty big for the program in terms of the latest Kicks that we announced. So we announced at the Brussels Summit in April 2 innovation centers Kicks in Germany, one in Munich and one in Code University in Berlin. So the Digital Transformation Lab will work with the city of Munich as well as the airport and the municipalities and the local startups. The Better Future Lab are going to have their students working on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals through the United Nations. And we also have a public innovation lab at a school of public affairs. Not a very technology school, but essentially a policy school. The last 6 French presidents are alumni of Sciences Po, and they want to work on how can we look at digital transformation and solving issues. They want to work on things such as public mobility in the city of Paris, working on the aging population and creating a digitally inclusive society, as well as working for the 2024 Olympics and coming with innovations around that. As well as Swinburne University in Melbourne, Australia. They're working for data for social good, using data for chronic disease analysis, the Cosmos, as well as smart cities types of engagements. And so those were all done in the last couple of months that we've announced them, and then we're working on building the teams there and the innovation challenges that they plan. And so I just wanted to end this, my section on just showing a couple snapshots of the growing program for 2019. We'll have Paul talk about the Cal Poly DX Hub. John will come next in a little bit about the Arizona State University Smart City Kick. And then these are the ones that we just announced in Europe at Sciences Po, MUAS, the Munich University of Applied Sciences, Code University. We also had one the last couple of years with the city of Busan in Korea, and then the one in Swinburne. So we've built up a nice little portfolio, each of them working on various initiatives, each of them networking with each other and sharing the work that they're doing. So a challenge or an idea that happens at one Kick, we share across, as well as the solution sets. So we're hoping to build on this further in 2020 as we get new Kick opportunities and innovation challenges that come through the various Kicks. So with that, that's a little summary of the program. I'd like to invite John Rome up to the stage, who runs our executive sponsor of our ASU Smart City Kick. Thank you, John.
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be part of the club. You have no idea how nice it is now that we're part of the Kick. Also, people see CIC all the time, and so we have a little mnemonic device. So when you think about KIC, you have to do that on our campus. But I'm really happy to be part of the club, as I said. And the other thing, a little bit about ASU, but when you look at our charter or our mission of the university, we're an open institution, but we're really also focused on, if you can read that, fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, cultural, and overall health of the community it serves. And so even though the KIC is being sponsored out of our central IT organization, we think that it's part of our responsibility, in addition to keeping our systems up and running, how are we going to work for the greater good? And that this has been a great opportunity, storefront property that really is, we think we're going to have a huge impact, not only to our university, because we look at our university as also being, I'll talk in a minute about how we came to name our KIC, but we see our campus as being a smart campus. We then think that we're going to help with being a smart city going forward. So a little bit about ASU. I'll move to the next slide. And it's also great to know that we're taking the most innovative institution in the world, partnering with the most innovative company in the world. So I just think that great things are going to happen as we do more and more about that partnership. So we actually so it's still early days for us. We made our announcement of our KIC back in November of 2018, and my favorite story is that I'm a big believer of the working backward process. We've done many projects around Alexa and other initiatives with AWS, and each time I had to painfully go through the working backwards process, and I'm a big believer in it now. But the great story is that somehow it got to our ASU communication group, and never in my life I've been yelled at over email before. So she was saying, how did this happen? Who gave you permission? So I had to actually tell them that, no, this isn't a true press release. It's the way the Amazon working backwards, and I tried to find resources on the web to say this is how it is. And so anyway, I was still yelled at, but it was a good exercise. And then the university is starting to learn more and more about that working backwards process. The other thing you might ask, you'll see that all the KICs are taking on their own personality, and we thought, we were very intentional, like, how are we really going to make an impact and be known and make a presence? It's lucky our new CIO came from a smart cities background, and we've been working a lot with some of the local municipalities, so it just made sense for us to become the Smart City KIC, really with a focus around machine learning and AI. And you can see our logo there, and Teresa was nice enough to come to our announcement last November. And we also took some time, Teresa, that's our mascot, Sparky, so if you're a Sun Devil, this is the Triton, and that's what you have to do. So we taught her how to do that. I won't make you try to learn how to do that today. She has a personalized jersey now, so I don't think she has an official football team. She does now, being at ASU. And then she spent some time with some of our students there. So really, it's great. And I think that really shows the commitment not only of our university moving forward, but the commitment of AWS being part of our campus. And you would think that we could start challenges right away, but there was facilities and logistics we had to work with. So it wasn't until November to March, when we actually, we found storefront property. We had to make sure the room was painted, and we had to find space, order furniture, and it takes a while, and hire staff, not only from the ASU side, but also from the AWS side. And it was really a proud moment. We literally got that done the day before we had the ribbon cutting with the sign there. So it was very rewarding to see that sign go up. And it was also nice to have Paul from Cal Poly not only have us spend time at his institution, but also be part of that open ribbon cutting. And you can see that handsome Ben there, as well as the mayor of Scottsdale there, and a few other, Ann Merrihew, as well as our VP of research there for the ribbon cutting. And as you can see, it was a great activity in the room there. We had a celebrity doppelganger running. You could walk up to the screen and tell you who you most look like. I've been told that the celebrity doppelganger told me I look like John McEnroe. Who did it tell you look like? Like Ben? Some soccer star. So we had a lot of fun there. But you can see a lot of activity. We were showcasing. We had a deep racer on display and some Sumerian events. But we want to really get a lot of activity and a lot of energy around the KIC. And as you can see, that happen as well. We also took the time to build a wall wrap, and that's become every visitor now. I see some of my Australian friends near the front. This is the place to go. So it was really fun to have a wall wrap that talks about our smart cities. We have our own logo, and there's the team right there. And I'm going to have the guys in the room raise their hands from the ASU Smart City KIC. So Jason's in the front row here. All right, don't be shy. There's Mike over there. Where's Jason Bass at? So make sure you guys say hi to them or have questions afterwards to say hi and do that. And as I said, we're still early days, and so we actually didn't get to do our first innovation workshop until May. It just took us some time to sort of get ready with the challenges, and we did our, as we call it, we kind of ate our own dog food. Before we start working with the larger municipalities and other groups, we actually did an internal workshop, and it was really a great day, also very hard. It was like a tough day to go through, spend 8 hours through that challenge, but as Jeff and Ben will attest, this is really narrows down the focus of it, and we're really setting a good path as we start working on our first internal challenges, and before we start inviting in the community and faculty and staff, students and the municipalities start working on our challenges. So in terms of challenges, this is really what we are starting to queue up right now. We're still in the vetting process, and we have a set of questions that we ask those who want to submit these challenges for us to do the POCs. But these are the things working with the cities and working with faculty around smart cities. These are the issues that are sort of bubbling up to the top. We're finding out that Arizona has the highest pedestrian fatalities, which I didn't realize. We also have, as you can realize, a lot of heat in Arizona. How do we do heat mitigation? A lot around homelessness, transportation, as water consumption, and then just some other ideas that are working. And I'm also excited as well as these other KICs start doing, publishing their challenges. We have yet another community that we can start working with those challenges. And so we're talking with Paul about how can we collaborate on maybe some challenges around space or around homelessness. So we're really excited about that. The other thing that we've done that's been quite intentional is that this is what happens when you work in a large institution. You don't realize there's a lot of other people doing smart city stuff. And so we found that there was a Center for Smart Cities. We brought them into the fold, and we're working with them closely. And a lot of challenges on the previous page really came from their work and their connections with the municipalities and the cities out there as well. And then finally, this is also part of the process of finding out who's doing what around smart cities. We actually found that ASU was part of a smart region consortium. So we're working with three of probably the most influential smart city groups in the Phoenix metropolitan area, being the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, the Maricopa Association of Governments, which will then help us give us access to the mayors, as well as sort of a private firm who's really sort of focused around smart cities. And so the fact now that we have a regional consortium that we can then work with and give us access to more and more individuals who are working with smart cities, I think that we're just really primed, I think. We're just on the cusp of really great things happening, and I'm waiting for, hopefully next year we'll have a great video like Paul has, Ben, so come out and we can make a video, because I think great things are going to happen. And then I'll just encourage you, if you have some ideas around smart cities or want to collaborate with us, please go out to the smartchallenges.asu.edu, and there's actually a form out there to fill, and we look forward to working with you. And also looking forward to other people who want to join the club and be the next KIC. Thank you. Okay, and I like to bring up to stage my colleague, my new friend. We've been working together for almost a year now. And he's the director of new programs at Cal Poly. So here you go, Paul.
Thank you, John. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out to listen to us today. One of the things that I want to talk about today is what the Cal Poly Digital Transformation Hub has been up to for the last, I think we've been around for about 20 months now since we launched. So a little bit longer than the rest. So, last year I could kind of make stuff up and say we might do these things. This year I have to actually talk about what we did. So luckily we've done some things. So that's not a very useful slide. So one of the things we talk about when we talk to the public sector folks that we work with, and just to be clear about all that, the folks we work with are specifically education, nonprofit, and government organizations. So we really focus on those areas. And we know those organizations are really focused on providing services to the public, really. We want to make sure that we can provide the services and the things the public needs to operate. So, a year and a half ago, we would walk into public sector organizations and we'd say, okay, we want to help you guys do innovation and digital transformation and digital literacy. And we'd get stares that would be like, you want to do what? So we had to refocus a little bit. So we translated that and made it a little more clear. So what we really want to do is to help public sector organizations think differently about how to solve their problems and really explore the art of the possible. What we see is that there's a lot of really great subject matter expertise out there in the public sector, whether it's in law enforcement or healthcare or whatever it might be. But in many cases, the technology has been changing so quickly that those subject matter experts really can't keep up with it. And most people can't really, because as AWS has showed you this week, there's new products out there all the time. What does AWS have? 165 cloud-based products now. So one of the things we want to be able to do is to really get the public sector folks enough digital literacy to be able to understand how the latest technologies can really help them do their jobs better. So changing the culture by understanding the art of the possible is kind of where we start when we start working with public sector organizations. So I also get this question a lot when I walk into public sector organizations. The Digital Transformation Hub, what is that? So one of the things we try to do is explain it in this way, like I kind of just did a second ago, right? So the public sector has a really specific mission in providing services, I'm gonna put this over here, providing services to the public to solve the problems the public has. The technology folks, like AWS, are trying to develop technologies that can help the public sector and other organizations, commercial as well, do these things. So when we put the Digital Transformation Hub together, we tried to bring together the subject matter expertise that's focusing on the public sector mission together with the technology folks through the working backwards design thinking innovation process. And Ben talked a lot about what that process looks like. That's really what we try to do here. And those bullets on the bottom kind of talk about how we do that sort of thing. So at Cal Poly, our objectives to try to meet the mission goals that Ben talked about earlier are to provide our students with real-world learning experiences. So when we go into a public sector organization to help them solve a problem, we bring in students, either computer science students or public policy students, ethics students, whatever it might take, to work with us through the problems that we work on. And for Cal Poly, that's one of the reasons we decided we wanted to be a KIC in the first place. We really wanted to get our students those real-world learning experiences. The other thing we want to do is provide proven innovation techniques to the public sector. And we looked at AWS and we said, you know what? They develop some really great products. They know what they're doing. Let's see if we can get that process out there into the public sector so they can use that process as well to come up with solutions to problems. Let's look at understanding who the customer is and what the biggest problem the customers are having, and then let's solve that problem rather than, as Jeff Bezos said, let's not just go develop some really cool software and then find somebody that can use it. Let's really try to solve the problem. So we're working on that. We really want to utilize the subject matter expertise of the public sector. We know that's out there. We want to take advantage of that. That's really important. So we do that. And what we're really trying to do is solve problems in ways nobody thought of before, right? Technology folks don't have the subject matter expertise. The subject matter folks don't have the technology expertise, but together they can come up with a solution that perhaps no one had thought of before. So we try to do that as well. A diagram over on the left kind of talks about lots of different areas that we work in. And what we're trying to say there is the innovation process we use really works across all verticals. So there's really, it's not vertical focused at all. So we could put almost any problem in that circle, in that sphere, and it would work. This is a little background on where we are today and how we've gotten here. So we were the first KIC that has worked with Amazon on a university campus. Ben talked about the others that are out there in the world today. Our staffing, Ben talked about how the KIC sponsor, the universities, are required to have a program manager from their side to work through a KIC. What we've found is that it worked better for us if we had a little bigger staff than that. So I'm the program manager or director, whatever. We also have a project manager from Cal Poly, and we have a solutions architect from Cal Poly as well. So we have a certified AWS solutions architect on our side. And then on AWS side, they have a solutions architect, digital innovation lead who runs most of the workshops that we do, and a program manager as well. That team of 6 full-time people is pretty optimal for what we're working on today. And then we bring in students and faculty as we need to, depending on what the challenges are. We're also trying to educate the new KICs on how to create a KIC, right? So we talked about how many new ones there are. There's 5 or 6 new innovation centers that have just been announced. We had an innovation summit at Cal Poly back in February where we brought all the folks in that were going to develop the new innovation centers. We put together a playbook on the things that we learned over the last 20 months and tried to get that information out to them as well so they didn't have to invent it on their own and learn all the things that we learned. So we did that as well. And down in the bottom left is kind of our community interaction, and that's just the first quarter of this year. So we have 14 new challenges in the quarter. We have 18 active challenges with different kinds of organizations and problems that we're working on. We've worked with 31 faculty and 38 students. So that's kind of the trajectory we're on, and it's growing pretty rapidly. I think if you talked about the number of students and faculty we've worked with overall, I think the number of students is around 120, and faculty is up around 75 now. So it's really getting out into the university, and the university is understanding the value that this provides for our students and faculty. So that's all looking pretty good. What I wanted to show you here is this is all the other innovation centers around the world. And what we're really focusing on, as John mentioned as well, is that we really want to be able to look at how we can share challenges across the globe with the other innovation centers. Maybe we're going to look at working with Paris on an Olympic challenge in 2024. Los Angeles is in 2028. That's a good opportunity for us to work together on some of those challenges. We think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for our students and faculty to exchange with the other universities and really provide a global perspective on public sector challenges and how we can solve those. Again, our student experience is a big deal, and changing the world is really what we're trying to do. I know that sounds like a big goal, but we really are trying to do that. This is just an overview of some of the organizations we've worked with over the last 20 months. And again, it covers those 3 areas, the nonprofits, government, and education. I was telling somebody this the other day. When we first launched the Digital Transformation Hub 20 months ago, the organizations we were working with were small cities in the local area of where we live. It's kind of turned into a snowball, right? By word of mouth more than anything, and speaking at conferences like this. So now the challenges we're getting are really bigger, broader, more nationwide, global kinds of challenges. Some of the organizations that we've worked with are some pretty big statewide organizations, California Attorney General's Office, LA County, people like that. Education side is growing a little bit as well. And some of our nonprofit challenges are some of the most interesting ones. You saw in the video where the student talked about working with artificial intelligence to identify undersea species with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. The California Strawberry Commission is a big organization that represents all the strawberry growers in California, about a $4 billion a year market. And they have all kinds of things that could be improved with the strawberry growers, like using less insecticide and controlling insects and that sort of thing. We're working on some problems with that. And some economic development efforts as well with the Hourglass Project. This is a little bit of an overview of some of the projects we've completed. And I'll just do a quick overview. So the first one up there in the left is a digital evidence collection effort. What this one was law enforcement officers who go to a crime scene and need to collect digital evidence like cell phones or Game Boys or laptops need to understand how to collect the evidence in a way that's going to be allowable in court. There's something like 1,200 cell phone models that are possible. Each one has to be collected in a slightly different way, and it's almost impossible for law enforcement officers to remember how to do all those. So this is an app that we created for them where they could get on a crime scene. They can say, I've got a cell phone. Here's what it looks like. It'll tell them what they need to do, how to put it in airplane mode, how to collect it without locking it, and that sort of thing. So that's a pretty valuable thing for law enforcement. We did a challenge on it's be called smart cow tracking. What it really does is collects GPS coordinates and body temperature of cattle out on big cattle ranches. Ranchers sometimes have such large ranches with gullies and tree cover where if they have a cow that's pregnant, they want to make sure that the rancher's able to get to the cow before she has the baby. So when they look at body temperature, they can see about when that's going to happen and where the cow is, so they can go out and retrieve the cow. So interesting one there. We talked about San Leandro Police Department. We've done about, I think we have about 10 challenges completed at this point. We have about 45 in our queue to work on, so that number is growing pretty rapidly. We're working on a good governance process to select the right challenges. What we really want to do when we work on challenges is to make sure that when we accept a challenge and we work on a solution to a problem, that problem can be scaled across either the state, nation, or even the world. Because what we're trying to do is, because we publish everything in open source, what we're trying to do is solve a problem once and then have all of the other public sector organizations use that solution rather than trying to solve the same problem lots of times. So that's one of our goals. This is one of our latest challenges with the Strawberry Commission. It's a chatbot, and it's using machine learning. And what it does is you have a strawberry farmer out in the field, and he logs into his application. The application asks him questions about his strawberry farm. Things like, have you applied insecticide yet? Have you used, they have this thing called an insect vac. I've learned all kinds of new things. There's an insect vac that they have in their fields. Have you used your insect vac yet? Have you seen an insect that looks like this? That's actually a ligus bug, another one of those new things I learned. And if you've seen a ligus bug, that means you're getting a ligus, I don't know, the ligus are attacking your field. That's a bad thing in California. These bugs cause about $200 million in damage every year. So if you see that, then you know you need to go and apply insecticide. So what's interesting about this, though, is it's really reducing the amount of insecticide that's needed to be applied, because if the farmers just apply insecticide across the entire growing season, they're actually applying insecticide when you don't need it. So what we're trying to do is get them to apply it when they need it, so they don't need to apply as much. So that's kind of what this does. It's really kind of a customer-focused application to really, in a simple way, solve a problem for the farmers. Just this week, this is a new thing for us, we announced a new challenge series. We're calling it the Cal Poly Satellite Data Solutions Initiative. What we're doing with this solutions initiative is we're working on improving data communications with satellites and looking at how you can utilize satellite data in a better way to provide services to the public. We're working in conjunction with the new AWS ground station service. And to do this, we're looking at ways in which, because the new ground station service will be global, satellite data, imagery, for example, can be downloaded to the ground station service into the AWS cloud, and the data can be processed with machine learning, for example, and gotten out to emergency responders in minutes rather than days, how it is today. That's one of the things we're looking at. Is what are the use cases for doing this sort of thing? The other thing we're looking at here is how can we improve cybersecurity for satellite data, right? Much of our critical infrastructure is operated through satellite data. We want to make sure that critical infrastructure is really secure and people can't hack it. So that's another of the things we're looking at. We actually have a set of about 7 challenges we're working on in this area. It's pretty exciting for us. Arizona State, I know, has a good program in space as well. We'll probably work with them on some of these challenges. And last but not least, we have our new website is up, dxhub.calpoly.edu. Much of what we talked about here is published on that website. Feel free to go out there and take a look. Okay. We probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. Ben, would you like to join me back up on stage?
I think we've got like a minute. If there's one question we can answer, and then so we can switch out for the next session, we can answer more questions.
Out in the back.
Are there times when, like, I can imagine times where the customer immediately sees, like, so you talk about starting with the customer and working backwards. Are there times when there's an idea or something that's sort of more engineer-driven where the customer isn't immediately convinced or doesn't see the value, and the engineer has to do a lot of work sort of building a prototype or whatever before the customer can even get it? Is that ever a thing, and does your process address that?
Well, yeah, our process tries to preempt that.
Yeah.
And so why we call it working backwards is we actually want to hear, and I say this over and over, the voice of the customer. And when we do that first workshop, the innovation workshop, we actually try to get the ratio 70-30, and 70% business owners, leaders, stakeholders, and maybe 30% tech. And then we have subsequent solutions workshops that actually would take that idea. But what we really want to drill down in the workshop, and it's a quote from like Einstein, if I had an hour to solve the problem, I would spend 55 minutes understanding deeply what the problem is and what I'm trying to solve, and then maybe 5 minutes on the solutioning. He's a lot smarter than all of us, so he only needs 5 minutes, but we take that theory to the workshop. We actually dive very deeply into the problem set. So what we try to say is, well, we're not going to give you a problem, or we're not going to throw artificial intelligence at it and then see where it would fit. Right. We're going to work from the customer problem, the opportunity. We dive really deep into that. And that's where we preempt the process, because they know what the problem is. I kind of call it innovation therapy. They like to talk about the issues that they're trying to solve, and it's good to have a collaboration to be able to discuss those issues. And then they actually help brainstorm through the activities of what the solution could be without worrying about how to implement it. But wouldn't it be cool to get to this experience? That's what we try to do within that first workshop, and not go through the tech. What we believe is the tech will happen if we can clearly define why we want to do it.
And we try to get that prototype that we develop out into the hands of the people who are actually going to use it.
That's right.
To make sure they will use it.
The user acceptance testing. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and I'll hang out in the hallway if you have any more questions.